Good morning, Primary 1, 2, Primary 2a, Primary 2b and Primary 2, 3. I hope you're enjoying the sunshine on this beautiful Tuesday morning, and I hope you're going to enjoy this week's writing task, which is all about Nosh the alien. Our task this week is a persuasive piece. Now, can anybody remember what persuasive means again? Remember, if we think back to our first term when we were persuading people to come to Peterhead, and persuading somebody means you're trying to convince them to do what you want them to do. So you've got to kind of think of your bossy verbs. You're telling them. You're not asking them, you're telling them. So we've a bit of exciting news. An alien has crash landed in Peterhead. Nosh was travelling back to Mars when his spaceship started smoking. It started tossing and turning and plummeting. While the spaceship was speedily heading towards Earth, splash! Nosh landed in a bright blue ocean and was surrounded by a golden sandy beach. He had landed on the Yugi beach. He searched for someone to fix his spaceship, but he was confused as he could not see anyone. Then he saw a sign. Stop. New coronavirus. Visitors cannot enter to prevent the spread of infection. It was getting late, so Nosh decided to look for somewhere to stay the night, when he came across a family walking their dog. Nosh introduced himself and showed them what had happened. The family explained that a virus had struck Earth and most shops are shut, so he won't be able to fix his spaceship for a while. Meanwhile, the family invited Nosh to come and stay with them until he can get back to Mars. When Nosh came back to the house, the family told him he must wash his hands properly, but Nosh did not understand why or how to do this, so he rinsed his hands with water. Lee, the little boy, tried to explain to Nosh, but he didn't believe that this would stop the virus. So he has asked everyone in Primary 2 to persuade Nosh to wash his hands properly. Can you help to persuade Nosh to wash his hands to stop the spread of coronavirus? Firstly, you need to watch this video to remind yourself on how to wash your hands properly. And the task will be to write a letter to Nosh. Because of social distancing, we can't go over and tell him. So just a reminder, you need to wet your hands first, then get the soap. Remember to sing that happy birthday song to yourself twice while you're scrubbing and washing all of your hands, and then rinse it off with hot water and dry it very carefully. This week, to be successful, you'll be using persuasive wow words and completing a letter template to persuade Nosh to wash his hands properly. To be successful, you'll need to put the date at the top of your letter. You will need to write the name of the person you're writing to with a capital letter, which is Nosh, remember. And begin your sentences with a different power opener. Think of your V-Cop. And remember, Primary 2b, you've got Vampires Crunch Oreo pieces. That'll be your Oreo part. And begin your sentences with all them good words we've been practicing in class. Mild is 2 openers, spicy is 3 openers, and hot is 5 openers if you want to challenge yourself even more. Don't forget your wow words, that's your adjectives, your describing words. Mild is 2, spicy is 3, and hot is 5. And don't forget your capital letters, full stops, and finger spaces throughout your writing, as well as a capital letter to begin your first and last name at the end to say who your letter is from. When should we wash our hands? We've got after using the toilet, after touching your pets, before eating your food, and when you come inside if you've been outside playing or out for your walk. But don't forget, if you cough or sneeze into your hands, it's better if you use a tissue and then put it in the bin and then wash your hands straight away. So what is persuasion? Persuasion is you making someone believe what you say. So you've got to be really bossy. So this means you don't ask them, you tell them. Verbs you might use to tell Nosh how to wash his hands properly are scrub, wash, clean, rinse and cover. Persuasive words might be must, need, do, important and can't. So remember, your verbs are your doing words. While you're washing your hands, what are you doing? And if you need to, you can wash your hands to start this task and it'll help you think about the words you're going to be using to persuade Nosh. Persuasive words, remember, you're not asking him, you're not saying can you please, you're saying you must, you need to. Have a look at some of these videos that'll help you understand why we need to wash our hands and why it keeps us safe. As some of the wow words you might be using in your letter are some of these words below. So you might be saying your temperature, spreading germs, bacteria. Think about the bacteria that was living on the bread when we didn't wash our hands when we did our bread experiment. Your first part of your writing task today is completing your planning sheet, and think about these questions and discuss them with an adult. Why must you wash your hands for 20 seconds? Why must you wash your hands with soap? Can we not just use water? Why must you wash your hands with warm water and not cold water? Which parts of the hand do people normally miss when they wash their hands? Why must you take your jewellery off if you wash your hands? Why must you dry your hands properly? And what might happen if you don't follow these steps? This week's planning task looks like this, and the first part is when do you need to wash your hands? So the first one I've gave you a clue with a picture. You need to wash your hands after you use the toilet. Can you think of any others to put in below? And the last one, you need to draw a picture of after you cough, sneeze or touch your face. So the bottom part, use the questions we've just discussed to fill this in. So why do we need to use hot water and wet hands first? The next part, what do we need to do to our hands next? Why do we need soap? What parts of the hand do people normally miss? Why do we need to dry our hands properly? And there's some words at the bottom you might want to use. These are some of the wow words and some of the verbs that are going to persuade Nosh to wash his hands properly that you can use to fill in this planning sheet. Take some time, have a think, and if you need to, remember, wash your hands, which will help you think of some words you might want to use in your letter. Now, we did some letters in term 1, but you may have forgotten, and that's okay. So we're going to go over how to lay out your letter again. So remember, at the top of your letter, you need to put the date. So for example, you might put the 20th of April 2020, and remember April needs a capital A because it's important, it's a month. Then you need dear, because that's who we're writing the letter to. So dear Nosh and then a comma. So you need the dear, lets people know that who the letter is going to. And at the end, after you've wrote your part in your letter persuading Nosh to wash his hands, you need to say who it's from. So you might say from Alex Strachan, and again you need a capital letter to begin your first name and a capital letter to begin your last name. And at the top right hand side you need to put your address because it's your letter, you've sent it to Nosh, and he might want to write a letter back to you, so you need to put your address here, the top right hand corner, so that he can write a letter back to you, because he might still be confused and might have some questions for you. Here is the example letter layout. Now here's where you could put your address. Remember to ask an adult and they can help you write your address. Here's where you're going to put your date. So the date is the date you wrote the letter. And then we're starting our letter with dear, and it's going to be Nosh. Don't forget to put your words on the line. I don't want any floating letters up high in the sky. And I've started it for you. I am writing to explain to you what the coronavirus is. So then you can finish off that letter there on the lines. Now, if you don't need to print this out. If you don't want to, you can easily write this letter in your home learning jotter and then draw a nice picture above. That's entirely up to you. And don't forget, at the end, you're going to say from and then your first and last name, both with capital letters. A suggested order of the sentences you might want to use. Remember, you've got your mild, spicy and hot back in your icons, back at the start of the PowerPoint, which will let you know how many sentences you need to do. So the first sentence, you could say what coronavirus is, because Nosh might still be confused and not sure what it is. The next sentence, you might say, when must you wash your hands? Now remember, you must wash your hands after the toilet, before you eat your lunch, or after you've been clapping your pets, or any other ones you want to choose from the start of the PowerPoint. And remember to say why, because Nosh might be confused why you need to do that. What's on your hands if you've been clapping your pet? What might you be touching if you've been outside? Why must you wet your hands with hot water first? Can we not just use cold water? Why must you use soap? And why must you dry your hands? And again, don't forget your wow words, your finger spaces, your capital letters, and your punctuation. Think back to your full stops, your exclamation marks if you're shouting or if you're being really bossy, and your question marks. Maybe you've got a question for Nosh. Maybe you want to know about what he's been up to. And here's an example of what the letter that I wrote to Nosh. It says, Dear Nosh, I am writing to explain to you what the coronavirus is. The coronavirus is a lung disease that is spreading really fast all over the world and can be passed through not washing your hands properly. Firstly, Nosh, it is really important you wash your hands after you have been outside, been petting animals, after you use the toilet, and after you cough or sneeze, as there are lots of germs when you do this that can make you unwell. Before you eat food, you must wash your hands, as bacteria from your hands can make you ill. Also, when washing your hands, you need to use warm water, as this helps to kill the bad germs. You must use soap when washing your hands and make it foamy, as this will make sure your hands are clean. Don't forget to dry your hands, as bacteria love a wet place to live. From Miss Kaminsky. Okay, Primary 2. I've went through my letter and shown you in different colours all the different things that you can add. So in yellow, I've done your power openers. So I've got the, firstly, before, also, don't, and you. These are really good examples of the power openers you could be using and they make your letter more interesting. In green, I've got all them descriptive words that we've been using in class and all them power words you might want to use back on the previous slide. We've got fast, bacteria, ill, warm, bad germs, foamy, love, dry, warm, clean, etc. So you can go through on the PowerPoint that I've put in files and have a look at my descriptive words I've used. Also got in red, because this is really important when you're persuading people. You're not asking Nosh, you're telling them. So we need really important. Make sure, need, must. So you need to use these words to persuade Nosh to tell him he needs to wash his hands properly. It's really, really important. And I've also got in blue all your connectives that we've been learning this week. So remember, connectives are joining two simple sentences together. So we've got and, after, and when. These are connectives that you join two sentences together. Instead of doing two separate sentences, you can make one big, long, interesting sentence. Now, lastly, once you've wrote your letter, I want you to, with an adult, complete your tick grid, your self-assessment. And if you aren't able to tick these off the list, then you need to go back into your letter and change a few things. You can choose mild, spicy, or hot this week. It's entirely up to you. Then, in the class notebook section in your name, you can upload your work for your teacher to see and mark. Please remember to post in the post section once you've uploaded your work to let your teacher know you're finished, and then they can take a look. I hope you enjoy this week's writing task, and I hope we can persuade Nosh to wash his hands properly.